Pardon me, a story we brought you last week about a local dog that can count to 10 sparked a lot of discussion about which foods are safe to feed your pet. Patti and veterinarian Joel Conn join us now with more.
Thanks, Randall. Yes, Dr. Joel Conn is here talking about some of the foods, things around the house that can be dangerous for pets that we may not be aware of. You probably saw the story about Sydney, the counting dog in Los Alamos. Really cute and obviously pretty smart. We had reaction literally from across the country, and for the most part, just about every comment, and we got phone calls as well, were people who were truly concerned and just wanted to educate people about giving raisins to dogs, as that, you know, that can be harmful. So it was actually very nice. I thought the response was nice and worth talking about, because so many people don't realize there's a lot of things you shouldn't. I know that you would say, just don't give your dogs human food, right? If you do that, you're safe.
Yeah.
But there are things that you really want to make sure you're careful about.
Yes, and you know, raisins and grapes are both things that we find very commonly people don't realize can be toxic. The thing that's interesting about those particular fruits, and actually raisins are worse than grapes because they're more concentrated, is that it's what's called an idiosyncratic reaction. So it doesn't affect every dog, and we don't really understand why it does what it does, but we see in some animals, we see kidney failure.
So to be safe, you don't want to find out if your dog's going to react that way. You just don't do it.
You don't want to test it out. That's right. So an animal that has been getting raisins, that kind of thing, with no problems, chances are will not have them. But you know, that's not a risk I probably would recommend anyone taking.
Not worth finding out the hard way. So grapes and raisins. Tell us some other items that I wouldn't give a dog avocado, but tell us the ones that you really should avoid.
So there's a few on here that might be surprising. Sugar-free candy has been a newer thing for us, and specifically a product called xylitol, which is an artificial sweetener, and has replaced saccharin and some of these other artificial sweeteners in especially sugar-free gum, sugar-free hard candies. And that can be incredibly toxic. And even one piece of gum from a package, and especially in a small animal, can be both kidney and liver toxic. It can throw them into hypoglycemia. So that's something to avoid.
If we can get our graphic back, you were going to talk about some of the other ones. Onions and garlics, I'll be chopping stuff around the kitchen and we'll knock that onto the ground.
Yes. Onions and garlic can cause anemias, worse in cats than in dogs, but we see it in both animals. The interesting thing about garlic is it's in a lot of sort of holistic, over-the-counter flea control products and things like that for animals, and so we just recommend avoiding that stuff altogether.
So be careful about that. And it's so tempting to give, you want to reward them, and you're preparing dinner, so give them some of what you're fixing, but raw foods to avoid?
Raw foods, just in the same way that you would probably avoid raw chicken, hopefully. Same thing can affect animals, Salmonella, E. coli. They're a little bit less susceptible in some ways because they have a shorter transit time in their gut, but they can still get food poisoning. And they did a study was performed after the big food recall scare 2 years ago. People switched to actually home-fed, even cooked diets, and we saw a 400% increase in food poisoning when they went off of commercial dog food.
So if it's something that you don't want to eat yourself, it just probably don't want to give it to your pet anyway. Okay, what about the avocado, macadamia nuts, and other foods that are really fatty?
So fatty foods, and avocado has slightly different reaction. That's more of a chronic consumption kind of thing. So we see this more in the horses that are housed near an avocado tree.
Oh, and they have access to it. Okay.
But fatty foods, we see this every time there's we have 4th of July or holiday. We see animals come in that have been fed fatty foods, and now especially dogs, now they've developed pancreatitis, which is a common gastrointestinal disorder that can be brought on by high-fat foods. So hot dogs, potato chips, things like that, you want to avoid.
So don't give the table scraps to your dogs. All right, macadamia nuts. What's the problem with those?
So macadamia nuts can cause pretty severe upset stomach. So primarily vomiting, diarrhea, things like that.
And we had with one of our chihuahuas where they had the upset stomach that turned into a cyclical problem. Once the stomach was upset, then they couldn't tolerate anything, and ended up being a pretty bad illness. It just got started, with a stomach problem.
And that may have been a pancreatitis issue. Pancreatitis, once they have it, can very often become very chronic. And that can be brought on by diet.
All right. Well, other things around your house that could harm your pet, plants, and we have a list here. got lilies, poinsettias, tulips, azaleas, and rhododendrons. I'm trying to picture what an azalea looks like. Castor bean, oleander, those are like the bushes that you might have for a hedge, chrysanthemum, wild mushrooms, and no marijuana for the pets.
No marijuana for the pets. You know, in general, with plants, just as you would not eat a plant, those those can be toxic to your pets. So if you have an animal, and it's usually cats that are liking to chew on the leaves, talk to your veterinarian, and he may be able to guide you. He or she may be able to guide you towards some safer plants. That would
and again,
not be
it's
so
one
bad.
of those things where you don't want to find out the hard way.
Right.
Just avoid it altogether because you don't know what the reaction could be. And I've always heard that about the poinsettias. Okay, things like in your garage or maybe in your cabinet that they can get into, antifreeze, birdseed, potpourri, mothballs, pesticides, baits, flea dips, and collars. So tell us the attraction for, I think antifreeze.
Antifreeze has a sweet taste.
Really attract
It contains
animals,
kind of
right?
a sugary compound, and that can lead to kidney failure. So if you have spills in your garage, mop them up right away. That's usually what happens, is there's a spill, an animal gets into it.
And it smells sweet, so.
It smells sweet and tastes sweet, and so a lot of them will actually consume the entire spilled portion.
And birdseed would be attractive to a pet?
Not necessarily. It sort of depends on the pet. But
it would be bad for them.
The thing that can be bad about birdseed, even to birds, is that very often the birdseed goes bad and you get fungal contamination, and that can be highly toxic.
I did not realize that. Check your birdseed. All right, we have, again, run out of time, but plenty more to discuss. So if you have questions for Dr. Conn, send that in. AskTheVet@KCOY.com. You will find more information posted on our website as well at KCOY.com. And you'll be back again in a couple of weeks. So if you do have some topics or things to discuss, definitely send those in.